today the teddy bear is really happy because I think he's in one of the nicest places we've been together. Hello, Victor. I'm really happy to finally be here in this amazing place. I don't even know how to describe it. You saw the intro, it's crazy. And Victor, you're my hero, but before we talk about the success of that all, I want to travel back a little bit with you in your, like how you grew up. Because I want to understand how important food, family meals, sharing meals, hospitality was in your family when you grew up. How important was food?
Let me try to think what was actually more important than food when I grew up. Probably only one thing, wine.
Wine.
And that's it. I grew up in a very loving family, two sisters, a dog, great parents, in Strasbourg on the border with Germany. I'm a quarter German, not that Italian. I was brought up with very rigorous value and you have to be accountable and blah, 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 very German education. But in Alsace, and in Alsace, as in a few regions in France, as in many regions in France, food is absolutely essential. And in my family, in particular, food was like the catalyst of every moment of love and joy we would share. And our way to show our love to each other was to cook great meals and to put a lot of energy into it. So I was absolutely not brought up in a family of chefs or restaurant people, but just in a family where what you eat is so important. And if you cook veal, next Sunday we're going to start talking about it on Monday. And we're of course going to start to talk about where do we buy the veal and how do we cook it. But if we need that spice, where do we go and buy that spice? But yes, you know, the baker that cooks the good bread for the veal is 15 minutes from the house, so we need to schedule to go and pick that up. And we should order that cake to that pastry shop, etc., etc. That's how I grew up. My grandmother was an amazing cook, and she never taught my mother how to cook. But my mother just ate amazing food all her life.
You pick it up.
And when she became a student doctor, she left home, and wow, if she wanted to eat good food, she had to cook it. And that's how my mother learned to cook. And then she would call her mother and say, oh, what was that recipe again? And that's exactly what happened to me. I actually was never that much around my mother when she was cooking, or my father, who cooks actually very good as well. But then when I left home at 20 to go and study in Paris, I was like, okay, I want to eat more than the shitty barilla and pesto pasta. I mean, I love the barilla and pesto pasta, but eating that every day is not going to be enough. So, okay, mother, how did you cook that thing again? And then you start to be the guy who cooks, you know. I was living on a campus, and you start to be the guy who cooks. And so you start to be the guy who is organizing dinners. And then it's every night.
On that phase, because you're now in the student phase, when did the first time, I mean, now I understand a lot of your concept by learning how you grew up, but when was the first impulse to say, let's open a restaurant? Like, and at this moment, I'm not, like, when was that moment where you say, let's do that? Like, what was the impulse? There's always like the first light.
There was, the great story would be to tell you, I was born, I wanted to have a restaurant. It's absolutely not that. I was born loving food. My father worked on and off with Italy, so he was always bringing back great Italian food and the perfect San Daniele ham and the grissini and the good wine and stuff. So I was also educated with Italian food. He had a lot of Italian friends who were going there for holidays and stuff, but that's it. Then after my business school, I went to be a music producer. I was CEO of a record label. Absolutely by chance. And I realized, wow, it's great to work in an industry that you like. I mean, I love music, so I was like, it's actually great. It's actually way better to work than working for an oil company. I mean, let's keep in mind for the rest of my professional life that try and do things that I'm passionate about. Which actually happens to be one of the value of Big Mama, which is try and do things by passion.
You can feel that.
Because if you do things because you think it's smart, or a good business model,
Thank you so much.
then you have to outsmart rationally the market. if you're doing something you're passionate about, if you're not just stupid, you're probably statistically going to outperform the market because you're passionate. Some people tell me, oh, you're so good at communication. I'm not good at communication. I'm good at my product because I do the products I love. And maybe I learned that in the music industry. All these singers, they don't wake up in the morning and think, okay, how can I conceive a hit song? No, they just sing their guts out. Some of them succeed, some of them not. Some of them just sing their guts out and people love it. And by the way, that come and goes. Some of them make a great hit and the next song is no more a hit. And some of them are the Beatles. You know what I mean? And I think it's exactly the same in the restaurant industry. Do the things you love, do the design you like and where you want to eat, cook the food you love. Keep doing
authentic,
that.
honest.
Stay young, stay foolish, and hopefully people will keep loving what you like.
Oh la la.
Hi guys.
This is if you stay connected with people.
So, but Victor, when you back then in Paris, I mean, to open another Italian restaurant, because at the end of the day, our viewers would now think, okay, who the hell needs another Italian restaurant? It's not like
we're not doing restaurants. That's not my job.
So, but why was it Italian, and why you picked this theme? I mean, you're French. You said now your dad brought home stuff from Italy, but why the theme?
I did not answer your first question, which is when did that restaurant thing come up?
Yes.
It started with the will to do something with my partner.
So partnership
I'm a married guy. I did not decide I wanted 3 kids and a house, wherever that is, before I got married. I got married because I saw that woman, she's my partner in life. And then we talk together and we see what we want. Is it 1 kid? Is it another one? Maybe we only have 2, we discuss, do we want a 3rd one? And then do we like that region? Do we want to buy a house or maybe just rent or etc. And what's our life and how do we move to London? We had this discussion a year ago when we actually moved to London. Is she quitting her job because we're all moving to London to the new adventure? And then how can I support her in her new professional adventure? It starts with her and then now with the kids and then we build something together and we improvise. With Big Mama it was exactly the same with Tigran. It started with, I want this guy to be my business partner and hopefully for life. Then what do we do? So it's not about doing the greatest Italian restaurants. It's about doing something that I love and that he loves. And we're extremely different. So that's what I love and that's what he loves. And somewhere in the middle
is this
lies Big Mama.
Yeah.
Yes. And there are so many things I wanted to do here. And he said, no, yeah, I'm not sure. And then so many things he wanted to do. Yeah, I'm not sure. This is what, now it's way more than he and I. Because now we're 6 years later. So there is a whole team who brought that, and we try to be where the whole team meets. I think that's one of the reasons, that's one of our recipe for success so far. Is it going to work in the future? What the hell do I know? But for now, it's always been the way we work. And so we did restaurant because he was passionate about hospitality as a father in hotel business. I was passionate about food. We didn't have the money to do hotels. We said, okay, let's do restaurant. And then we said, okay, what kind of restaurant? And then we looked at so many options for a restaurant. And then after working weeks and months on, okay, what kind of food do we do? What kind of restaurant? What concept? Do we do something like Vapiano with a new model? Do we do fast food? Do we do fresh casual? Do we do fast casual? Do we do Michelin star? Do we do At the end, what we came to realize was this job, this industry is so hard. It's hard. It's hard because it's so many hours. You work when people are having fun, etc. It's a tough business. It's so hard. If you do something you're not passionate about, you're not going to make it. So we forgot about everything and we did Italian food because we're passionate about Italy. My wife lived in Italy, loves Italy. I've loved Italy. My father was on and off. I could speak Italian and know so many places and people in Italy. Tigran was raised on the border with Italy. It's the first language.
You're fake Italian.
What?
You're fake Italian.
I'm absolutely French and quarter German, but I've always been in love with Italy, and so did Tigran. So no, I don't pretend I'm the Italian guy. We're actually 2 French guys doing Italian restaurants with another 800 Italian people. But I think we look at Italy just like you look at the woman you love. You just see the positive aspects. And talk to all the Italians we have in the team. one of the reasons why they work here in London or in Paris is that at some point they don't see all the beauties of Italy. Maybe because they're Italian and they see the political turmoil, they see the downsides, how hard it is to create a business there, blah, blah, blah. I think we really see the beauty of Italy, and that's what we try and share.
And you do.
And to answer your second question, no one needs another Italian restaurant. And my job is definitely not to feed people. If people were not eating at Big Mama, they would not starve. We're not a charity. What we're trying to do is creating a moment, an experience. It's 360. Of course, it starts with the food. I'm actually sorry I jumped on the food when it came. You didn't even have covers. That was so rude. But
No, but it's amazing. The truffle is amazing.
And so it starts with the food. It's a restaurant. The food has to be great, but it's more than that. It's more than that. If you want to be fed, there is Ocado. If you want to be fed, there is all the fast casual. If you want to be fed, there is, of course, there is Deliveroo. And it's great. And then sometimes I just need to eat, and I'm very happy with Deliveroo. If I take the time to come to a restaurant,
I want an experience.
I want an experience. I want a moment. I want to interact with people. So all these guys telling me, but what about iPads in restaurants? No, iPads is fine. I use my iPhone all the time for food when I order on Ocado or on Deliveroo. If I come to a restaurant, I want to talk to someone. I want a people's moment.
I think on the European scale, and I do a lot of conferences and I see a lot of new concepts, I think what you brought back on the full attention is the attention for details, the vibe, and to be authentic. But there was so many fake concepts out there, and I think you were the first one what was in the face, authentic, pure, and always when people ask me to describe your concept, I think I never mention the food. First it is the vibe and the people, and I want to talk about these two things because on one thing we talked and you told me on the people you said we're buying a Ferrari, we're taking a young guy who has a cool vibe and we give him the key and say play and
drive
have fun.
Please drive fast.
Yeah, and drive fast. And I want to go back to that because so many people have no trust. You go, I think you have almost 100% Italians working here. It's also choice of some mix like this, and it's chaos because obviously they are not like that experience, but that makes the vibe, and they make mistake. And I want to go to this people factor.
That table here, I want to see how it goes and say, okay, what could we improve? And they say, well, there was something we could improve, okay. And then the guy said, but on another note, I want to tell you a story that happened to us. And I was like, oh, please tell me. And he was like, when two waiters came with drinks, at some point they hit each other and one spilled some drink on the other. And we would expect the other would be upset, and they started to laugh with each other and make jokes. And then at some point we had asked for extra salmon and it was not coming. So I said, oh, did you? And you would expect, say, yeah, we know it's coming. And then they started to make jokes about it. And I said, thank you for your debrief because it's not going to be perfect. But the first thing we want to achieve is value for money.
Yes.
So eventually it's pretty cheap. I can't achieve 3 Michelin star restaurants. So it's compared to the highest standards, it's not going to be perfect whatsoever. So the only thing we can do when we fuck up, and it's going to happen a lot, is try and show people that, maybe we're not able to deliver the perfect sequence, but we sincerely care about them and about the fact that they have a good moment. And I think what I try to understand more every day, and what we try to share with the team, is that the fact that the client is going to have a great moment is not only dependent on the fact that you're going to deliver properly. Of course, we have to greet them and be efficient, and the menu comes, and then the order and the food comes all at once, and then you don't have to ask 7 times for the bill, of course. But it's way more than that. And at some point, either you're not going to be greeted properly, or you're going to have to ask twice for the bill. So at least, let's try and show we really care about them. And the only way, and that's the quintessence of management at Big Mama, and the only way, I wish I could write a book about how to do that as the founder, the co-founder of this company. The only thing I try and do for my staff to care about my clients is to care about my staff, is be exemplary. So I'm quarter German. So when I come in my restaurants, it drives me crazy. Like I see, this is not perfect, this should not be like this. Oh, like there is a bottle missing here. Oh. Okay, so what do? I start download the team with like negative energy. In 10 days,
You can't.
In 10 days, I ruined the whole vibe.
Yeah.
I come here and I just try and give positive energy. Show them that I personally recognize it's not perfect, and trust me, they know I see it's not perfect. I don't talk about this. I see everything we're doing good, and I got a big smile. Yeah, just be exemplary in what is the most important thing you expect from the team. And what I expect from the team is whatever, how much they fuck up, they are exemplary as far as caring about the vibe.
Impressive. So you're
Well,
true,
my
you're a true
partner,
teddy bear.
You should talk with my partner because he taught me all that.
But I think that's this, you're a true teddy bear with this energy, and I think then you get these people. The question for me always is, and I ask Luca from Italy, who obviously also scales Italian lifestyle with the concept, how scalable that chaos is. Because I also remember another quote from you where you say, when you go to Italy and you have a dinner, there is things what go wrong and people go home and make fun of it and they like it, whereas they would never accept that, let's say the Germans would never accept that in Germany. And you said you can be sure when you order a bottle of still water you get a sparkling. And a week later I was in your restaurant in Gloria and I ordered a still water and I got a sparkling one. And I said, I said, look, that's the wrong water, and the guy was so funny about it. I think he didn't even exchange it, but I didn't care. And I thought like the guy saying on stage that, and that happens a week later, and it was true, yeah? So I think this authentic reaction, but the question is, you have not 10 units, and you have around 1,000 crazy Italians, more or less. How scalable is that? Is there a level? You said you're very German and organized, and I know you that it's true. On one thing, this ship is, because I don't know how many of the people have been in your restaurants, but we're talking about huge places. It's not like there's a couple of hundred people. You're doing in one of your restaurants in Paris a couple of thousand people a day. So it's a huge tanker built on values, but not so much on exact processes. How you think? When is the tipping point?
Has worked for a few years in a company called Vinci. Big real estate, big works, big thing. And Vinci is actually a $1 billion company based on the aggregation of thousands of very small and very agile companies, very not centralized. And we started to realize that you can grow. I don't know how scalable that is. It's actually not my concern.
That's not your concern.
No. Growth in some respect is a concern. I can talk about that, but I will talk about that. Growth, yes, not scalability. You can grow and keep every unit very organic and very true to itself and centralized to a minimum. Centralized to a minimum. Each restaurant is different in its design, in its process, in London, I have a head waiter for a table and a half. In Paris, he may have 10 tables. It's a different organization. Each restaurant is very specific. In Felicita, we have an app to order because it's up to 6,000 clients on a Saturday. Each restaurant is very different. So yes, it takes more time and energy to grow that. But I hope maybe it's also more, it will last longer. And so I'm not scaling because I mean I don't have the dictionary definition of scaling, but scaling appeals to me as being you multiply something.
At
some point you replicate.
Too. Yes.
That's not what we're doing.
You start from scratch.
We start from scratch every time. It's one of the value of the company. Start from scratch every time. And if something looks particularly good in previous restaurant, you make an extra effort not to replicate this.
So you haven't copied anything?
Yeah, the bottles. But it's not the same shelf, it's not the same designer around, and it's not the same kind of
bottles.
bottles.
By the way, guys, 30,000 bottles.
It's the only ID that we've replicated in 2 restaurants. We have 1 restaurant in Paris with this, and we have this one here. That's it. And in Paris, it's in the shop front, here it's on the walls. It's very different in many respects. It's an example. Of course, yes, and there is the tiramisu in all the restaurants, and the recipe is the same. But the Parma ham, there are so many suppliers, different suppliers, because we want to keep working with small ones. So we start from scratch every time for many reasons. The first reason is I think my job is way more funny like this. I'd rather have to go back to Italy and find new ham suppliers than spend time working on a 10 or 40-page contract with an industrial. to supply for the next 3 years, anticipating my growth and sharing my business plan and asking for an extra 3% reduction if blah, blah, blah. I mean, both are important, but one is definitely way more fun than the other. So I'd rather do the fun thing. Because eventually, we've always focused on the fun things, and at the end it works.
You can feel that.
So, yeah, maybe we're not building the biggest company, maybe we're not building the most profitable company, maybe we're not the best,
the most fun.
But we're having a lot of fun. And life is now, I mean, maybe I get in a truck going out that restaurant, so yeah, when I'm under a truck, I'll be happy with the most efficient and biggest company.
I think we can see that you're fun. So we said before, or it was the people, we covered that, or at least we touched it, and for me it's the interior. When you walk around here, I mean, it's in the face, it's very eclectic. And also one thing, and I realized that in Gloria, I think was the first time I really realized, I walked in, and I think it was in week number 1, and I thought this restaurant is here, like if you would have asked me, I would have said it's here 15 years. Because like there was this sticker on the window, there was all the details, the books laying around, and it looked like it's here forever. It's kind of very timeless because it's so like eclectic. How you create that? Is that also instinct? Do you follow certain? I mean, there's no 1 centimeter free on the wall. It's like it's incredible, and somehow all fits, and people take pictures like crazy. How you create that, or who helps you doing that?
So, to answer your question in two separate modes. First, we have a 100% internal studio. We do it all ourselves.
All the design.
Everything. Why is that? Because, thank you. Why is that? Because if we believe we are trying to create an experience, design is a part of it.
Yeah, 100%.
Music is we do our own playlist. In a few months, we're going to do our own soap. Every detail is part of the experience. Of course, the cutlery is important. It's part of the experience too. So we try to internalize as much as can be, because if you're British Airways, you can't say, okay, I'm buying the planes, I'm managing the relation with the airport, but I'm just outsourcing the pilots. I mean, design is an important part of it. At 100%. Some point, a few years ago, we felt like we can't keep outsourcing it. And God knows, when we've worked with designers, they've done a great job for us. We were extremely happy with them, etc. But it just felt like it didn't feel right to outsource something that is so important in our job. Second, we love to do it. So let's do the fun thing. Because yeah, if you want me to tell you how it is to create a design studio from scratch when you're a restaurateur, it's very hard.
So you're running a restaurant company and you're running a design company. Can we say that?
Yes, and the design company is not the easiest one. It's complicated because it's another mentality. It's a job we didn't know before, and it's a very specific job. But it brings so much satisfaction at the end. It's great. It's great. So it was a very good decision. I'm very happy we did that. We have now an amazing team.
You can feel and see that.
And then how do the first restaurant we did it with a designer called Martin Budnitsky and his team. He's done plenty of restaurants in London. He's great. And the first time I met Martin, we were like 28. We had never done a restaurant. We were 2 guys saying they want maybe some days to do an Italian restaurant. And we went to see that guy who was a star in London. And we said, you should come and make our restaurants in Paris. And we tried to convince him. And eventually he said yes. And he said, what I try and do is I design restaurants the day they open, they're already a classic. I heard that sentence and I thought that makes sense. And now every time we're working, it's one of the things we have in mind. So you're talking about authenticity. How do you artificially create authenticity? It's absolutely contradictory. So first thing, let's not try too hard, because the harder you try, the faker it feels. It's a hard question, and I can't give a lecture on what I believe is the key to creating authenticity, because we do it very instinctively. At some point, you have to be. We try to be in let go. So to create authenticity here, yes, you can recruit British people to work on the floor and teach them how to be Italian. That would be what the guy in control would do. Or you can just recruit Italian people, which is more complicated at some point because we're not in Italy, and just don't tell them anything.
Incredible.
Well, you just teach them the basic of hygiene, for instance, but then you just let them do. And I don't have to teach them the difference between burrata and mozzarella. They know it better than I do, you know what I mean? So that's with the staff, which is the number one factor of authenticity, because eventually I'm not creating a postal card Italy. No. We're not putting gondolas on the wall. We're doing modern Italy. In modern Italy, people eat avocado toast,
and
people
you built
eat burger.
the stage. And you built the stage for the actors. At the end of the day, you built a theater, and you need the guests to act, and you need the staff to act.
It's so right what you're saying. It feels like, yes, we care a lot about the design, eventually not for the clients, but for the staff. Then they come up the first day of the restaurants and they see the restaurant and they say, wow, you recruited me, you onboarded me to work in a restaurant, and that's the restaurant I'm going to work in. Wow, it's great, it feels good. It empowers people. It's a way for me, for the studio, for Tigran, for the head office, us who are not working lunch and dinner every day on the floor, to show our appreciation.
Incredible. Two more topics, because I know you also need to run two more themes. One is like, you're a young entrepreneur, you're still a young company, but you're looking back on a very good track record. If you now would give advice to yourself, or let's say to your partner a couple of years ago, now looking, what was much easier than you thought? What was really difficult? What was maybe even a danger at one point to the restaurant? Really looking back, you had no clue about that industry. You went in very naive in a positive sense. And now looking back, what is the biggest surprise? What was way, way, way easier, and what was way more difficult and almost like hit you? Is there anything what pops in your head?
I could name 1,000 things that were so much easier than expected. It feels hard to think about something that would be harder. I feel like every morning I wake up and I'm like, wow, how is it so cool and so easy? We're so lucky. Let's touch wood and try to hope that karma stays with us. I can't feel about hard times. Yes, I mean, it's a restaurant, so 1,000 things, 1,000 problems appear every minute. And you start again every lunch and dinner, and you're never a restaurateur. Maybe in 20 years you can say, I've tried to restaurateurs in the past 20 years, but you can't say, I'm a restaurateur. We'll see in the future. It's something that you appreciate on the very long run, I think. So many things go wrong and are hard, but I would say it's the nature of this job. The nature of this job is exactly like the service, like when you spill a drink on a client. It's the nature of this job that it's hard and complicated and things go wrong. And the guy, and I believe this guy who succeeds, or the guy who keep a big smile and try to see the positive. I would say, so I see everything that went easier. The thing that was so much easier than expected is, I can't believe we've met across the way so many gifted, passionate, talented people. It started with our first travel to Italy 6 years ago, when we would go to a Michelin star restaurant, and at the end of the service we would say to the chef in an approximative Italian, "Oh, we want to do an Italian restaurant in France. It was very good." And they go say, "Oh yeah, come on!" And it was 1 a.m, and he would sit us and bring all his products and say, "Oh, you should go and call this guy. That's his WhatsApp. Oh, and call this guy. The Parmesan is amazing. Oh, let me. No, he's never going to answer you if you call him. Let me call him. Hey, ciao, Luca." I was like, what the fuck? This guy has worked 15 hours today and he's sitting with me. He doesn't know me. He doesn't own me shit.
But he felt your passion.
Well, I felt his, and that started like this, and then the suppliers, and then the team, and then you meet Chiro, our first chef. The great story with Chiro is, we had this restaurant, this pop-up restaurant. The opportunity came up, and we had to start it like 3 weeks later. We had never operated a restaurant, and it was that pop-up restaurant in the south of France. So we had literally 10 days to find a chef. So we called all our suppliers, like, "Do you know a chef?" And the name popped up, like Ciro Cristiano. Okay, great. His experience? Actually, no, he's not a chef. He's a guy working in a kitchen, but we know him and he's a good guy. What is he? Oh, he's 22. Okay. So we called again and said, "Do you want to come in the south of France, in a village you've never heard about, to do a 6-month pop-up with people you've never known?" And he said, "Okay." And I was like, "Okay, are you a chef?" He's like, "Yes, of course I'm a chef." I'm like, "What's your experience?" "Well, not much." "Can we do a test? Like, can you cook us a tiramisu or something?" And he's like, Are you fucking kidding me? Like asking me to cook a tiramisu to see if I'm a chef? Who the fuck are you guys? I was like, okay, forget that tiramisu thing. So we started the first day with a guy we never knew,
mutual trust.
22 years old, and the first day we had 250 clients. And the guy happens to be a genius. And then he brings his friend, etc. And then we meet other people and say, oh, I want to join the adventure. And so everything was actually easier because I'm not doing it. people in the team are doing it.
You're giving the trust. Is there anything on the way or now who you look up, try to learn, who mentors you, or you really do everything out like of a gut or of a discussion with your partner? Is there anybody who somehow guides you, or at least you get inspired by?
I don't want to sound like the bullshit guy who says we do everything by passion. I mean, we don't operate this company just by passion. We know when it's time and when needed to be very objective-driven, data-driven, process-driven, etc. Of course, we're that too. We just try to be passion first. It doesn't mean we're not serious at some point as well, of course. So I don't want to sound like a bullshit guy first. Second, we have been amazingly lucky. I mean, here we've really been lucky. Sometimes I say I'm lucky and people tell me, yes, but you've shared passion and trust, which is true. We've been very lucky that at the beginning of this adventure, we thought, okay, if we do restaurants, we want to do big restaurants because we want it to be experiential and fun and great design. Obviously, it's going to cost a lot of money, plus the key money in Paris and stuff. So we needed a lot of money from the beginning. And we were 20 years. Well, that's the place. You had rap music before and hard rock, but now Italian too. And if you have just this music, it sounds so fake. But young Italian people also listen to that, but they also listen to rap and hard rock. Well, we were so lucky that we met one or two big entrepreneurs at the beginning of this adventure, and they said, yes, I'm gonna help finance you. Like they put like a small chip of money. What is for them a very small chip of money. They did not do that because they were like, okay, I'm gonna get richer with this. All these guys are very rich already, and they put some money which is insignificant for them. It doesn't mean they are ready to lose it because they didn't get rich by losing money, but it means they're not like very anxious about it. And then they call their friends, and then we meet their friends, and eventually that's how, like 6 years later, we have 17 entrepreneurs. Most of them are extraordinarily renowned, respected, successful. Well, all of them actually. And that structure of financing is
incredible.
It's one of the biggest luck we've had, because you asked me before we started the interview, like, what's coming next year? I seriously don't know. Maybe next year I open 5 restaurants. Maybe next year I don't open any restaurants. It's okay. First, all the people who financed us, it's their money. So when they make 2 times the money, they're very happy. When an investment funds make twice the money, the guy managing the fund doesn't get enough money out of this because it's not his money. So he's not happy. First thing. Second thing, they're happy to be in Big Mama for the next 20 years. Great.
Why wouldn't they?
So it gives my partner and I the ability to look at the story we're building on the very long run. It allows us one of the other value of Big Mama, which is let's try and do everything thinking, is it going to be working for 100 years? Is the design we're building going to be cool in 100 years, or is it just gimmick and fashionable? Is using not recycled paper going to work? If every restaurant uses not recycled paper, how is going to be the planet in 100 years? Okay, we use recycled paper. That's why we were a B Corporation. We were certified B Corp last year. We're actually very happy. And I think the whole team is very happy that we're a B Corp, which is the equivalent of organic for a company. This also, we can do that because we have this shareholder structure. We raised money, I think 18 months ago, something like that, to develop and go to the UK and stuff. And the first board of shareholders, the guy they just put the money. And well, it was big money, so of course you've been talking turnover and EBITDA for like 12 months and stuff, and business plans. The first board members meeting, we come at the table and we say, okay, there are 5 KPIs at Big Mama. They are equally important. And the guy will say, it's turnover, it's EBITDA, it's turnover of staff, it's client satisfaction, based on all the grades on all the platforms on internet, and the feedbacks we get, and the mystery cleanser, and it's our B Corp grade. And all the bonuses of everyone in the company is going to be on this 5 KPI equally. And we're going to report to you equally in this 5 KPI.
Super.
And we expect that we have 2 hours together. We're going to spend a fifth of that talking about our B Corp grade.
Amazing.
Try and do that with an investment fund who's there for 2 or 3 years. And the guy was like, that's great. Actually, we ended up talking only about B Corp, turnover of staff, and client satisfaction.
Well done.
Only. And that we were very lucky. And so yes, to answer your question, all these guys there share amazing feedbacks. The great thing is they don't tell us do this or do that because they're entrepreneurs. They know that they don't know shit. They know that they don't know shit about our business, and no one knows. They just share experience. I mean, you have a guy who's grown a company of 100,000 people and he's sharing an experience over coffee. Well, it's priceless.
Amazing. Last topic, we started with food in your childhood. We're eating food not enough because we're talking. I just eat berries. I want to go back to food because afterwards when we air that, always people send emails and chat. It's a great interview, but ask more about like tips and this guys know so much about food and blah, blah, blah. So I need to ask you because I always get the part. So first of all, quite obvious here. Best pasta ever outside of your own restaurants?
Il Centro, Prioca d'Alba in Piedmont region. So Prioca d'Alba is near Alba. There is a restaurant there called Il Centro. It's a 1 Michelin star restaurant, so maybe 2. So you expect it to be posh and stuff and expensive. It's literally like eating at my grandmother's, except that in the kitchen, which is not an open kitchen, you have like 15 people from everywhere around the world. It looks like my grandmother's dining room. It's so authentic Italian, like really simple trattoria. A pasta dish costs £12 and a meat dish costs £18, 18 euro. It's 2 Michelin star quality, and they do plin del Piemonte, so pasta filled with meat. It's to die for.
Getting hungry.
And actually, I ate there like a few years ago, and I came back and said we should do that, etc. And so we started to work on the recipe with the chefs. And the pasta, it's never as good. It's never going to be as good because it was in Italy, but it was really not as good. And at the end, I took my phone and I called them and I, hi, my name is Victor. That's who we are. Yeah, we have restaurants, etc. And I'm crazy about your pasta, and we can't make it. And she says, but how much egg do you put per kilo? Egg yolk. I was like, oh, we put that amount. And she says, oh no, just put 3 times more. You're gonna see it's okay. I hang up. I put 3 times more egg, which sounded crazy much, and it was great.
Amazing.
So we owe them our plin del Piemonte.
And they will get some business. You're blessed now in getting to know and working and living and operating in one of the 2 biggest food cities in Europe, in London and Paris. Therefore, that question, your favorite restaurant in Paris, your favorite restaurant in London, in general.
My favorite restaurant in Paris closed a year ago. I was very sad. My second, so what is now my favorite restaurant in Paris, maybe Le Baratin. Le Baratin is in the 20s.
Okay.
It's not just my favorite restaurant, it's so many chefs' favorite restaurants. It's very simple, very laid back, very cool. The guys are typically Parisian, which is, they look really not nice. It's like the guy says, hello, oh. Like, okay, are you in hospitality business? But he has actually a heart big like that. They are crazy about wine. His wife cooks amazingly. It's a quintessence of Parisian bistro. It's bistronomy, but it's been there 40 years. It was bistronomy before bistronomy was fancy. And in London I like a few. I love Trishna. I love it. I love Indian food. I love Trullo. I think they capture Italianness very well. Again, they're not trying too hard to be Italian, but the taste there, the atmosphere is very Italian, and I love Trullo. I love Spring. Voila, to name a few.
Thank you. I really hope, I could have keep on talking for now. I really hope that people follow you in that way that...
Oh, and I love Dishoom.
Dishoom, yeah, we all
their staff,
rock staff.
Their staff, the way you feel...
Very similar the values
how people at Dishoom is 1,000 times more important than all the rest being very well executed.
True.
And greatly done. But you just feel it's not a restaurant, it's just you're spending a time with them. And that's
we're
great.
scheduled on a Daddy Talks in 2 weeks with him. I want to say, I think people, I hope they see with true authentic and passion some Lugger.
Steaks and sushi as well. Like Dishum, the people there.
But I think you also focus always on this vibe and all the places you mentioned. I want to say, because you said you need to go, that I hope that people follow and say, we don't need to create generic places. We can be authentic. We find our place. We will find people who help us. We will find people who support us. And I think people underestimate how much you can change with positive energy, because you had no clue. You had restricted money. You opened in a city what didn't need another restaurant. You open a cuisine what definitely didn't need to have another more, and just I mean, we heard now what is behind, following, to hire crazy people, to trust them, to call a chef and say, okay, help me. You created that, and I think more people should feel what they have inside, not just try and copy paste others, because if you try, nothing is a copy here. If you try to copy paste others, it's just another place, and people don't need another place of the same. So I think you're really, really important for that industry, you and your partner, and you're a true daddy. That's why you get that for home.
Thank you very much.
Because
I have an anecdote on this.
So go.
When we did that pop-up restaurant, so it was the first time I was participating in operating a restaurant. I was practically with Tigran, my partner, the manager of this restaurant. And so we start summer, and first day, 250 clients. We were absolutely, it was a chaos. And I was my German self. I was like, this is not perfect, this is not great, this is not clean enough, blah, blah, blah. And then after like months, I have to go back to Paris, because we were starting to try and find a location in Paris. So I go to Paris for 6 days. And then when I come back, I see the whole team like, as if I put water on plants, you know, everyone was like shiny and smiling. And I was like, I say to Ramon, who was the manager, like, what's happening with you guys? And he's like, oh, you've been away like six days. And I was like, okay, so you mean that's the impact I was having? And I said, yeah, because you always want everything to be perfect. I was like, okay, and that was my greatest lesson. And from that day, I don't try to be perfect. I just try to be I felt actually a little ashamed when he was like, when I saw that people, when I was not there, were like so much more happier, and it was a real mess. But they were happier, and the clients were happy. That was my biggest lesson in that industry. And from that day, I tried to share positive energy. And that same night, I took the second greatest lesson of my whole life in the restaurant industry. It was a restaurant with 25 seats inside and 120 outside, and a terrace with something that you can bring up and down, okay? So it was packed inside, packed outside, so 150 clients. And it starts to get a lot of wind, the wind in the south of France, very hard wind. So we have to bring back the canopies. 5 minutes later, it starts pouring rain, like monsoon rain. And we had 125 clients outside eating pasta with monsoon rain on their plates. And I'm a pretty resourceful person, and I don't get anxious fast. I was like paralyzed by panic. And all the Italians who were there, and they were 10 years younger than I was and not more experienced, they started to dance and sing. And I could see the clients, and I was like, everyone looked at me when it started, because I was obviously managing the floor. And I could see panic in people's eyes, looking at me, not knowing what to do. And then the guys started to sing, and everyone like, okay, they got it. And so we ended up with 150 people in a restaurant of 20 seats or 25 seats, everyone finishing their pasta standing, with kids sitting on tables.
Amazing.
I believe these people had one of the best dinners in their life, and everyone left the restaurant
the ones
perfectly
they will
happy.
remember. And this is the moments, not that extreme, but that's the moments what you're creating here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much
for your time.
I've listened to the podcast for as long as they exist, and I don't even know how I end up speaking in them. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. And if you want the real Italy, authentic Italy, come here and enjoy it. And go to the men's toilet, by the way. Ciao. Thank you.
No, thank you.